So I've made it no secret that I'm a pretty vocal Universes Beyond hater, but even someone who dislikes Universes Beyond as much as me, I do still have to reconcile with the fact that, hey, Universes Beyond isn't standard, and if I want to keep up with what's good in standard and be competitive, well, I do have to devote at least a little bit of my attention to what's coming out and what is going to be potentially changing the meta. So I took a look at the recent spoilers for all of the Hobbit set. So everything that's coming to standard, not any of the stuff that's coming to Commander. I don't really pay that much attention to that because I don't play a whole lot of Commander. But these are some cards that I wanted to go over today and talk about what I think is going to be a potential game changer in the standard format going forward. So today, let's go ahead and go through the list of what cards I personally think are going to be good and cards that I'm going to be personally crafting on Arena and also potentially buying in paper, depending if the price is good or not. So first up, we're going to go through the white cards that I think are going to be pretty good. So first up, we have Bilbo's Gambit. Bilbo's Gambit is a 1 colorless and 1 white mana instant that says Gift a Treasure. So if you're not familiar with Gift a Treasure, basically when you cast it, you give your opponent a treasure token. Pretty simple, right? But the rest of the card, that's where the good stuff is. So return target spell to its owner's hand. If the gift was promised, players can't cast spells this turn. So the reason why I think this is pretty good is because, well, in mono white, this can effectively be a counter spell for the rest of the turn. You can say, hey, I don't like what you're doing there. Put that back in your hand. Maybe try that next turn, but you're not going to do that again this turn. The only downside to that is it shuts off spellcasting for both players when you play this, because it says players can't cast a spell, not that player can't cast spells this turn. So you do have to be a little careful when you're casting this. I think a great opportunity for this card is going to be not necessarily in like a control deck, but actually more of like a tempo deck. So like decks that like want to not necessarily play aggro, but like kind of play things at very important key turns of the game, like say like turns like 2 or 4. That's usually when you get really good stuff out. But Bilbo's Gambit is great because you can kind of set up your offense, and then when your opponent tries to play like a key removal spell or maybe a board wipe or something that is really detrimental to your game plan, you just go, boom, Bilbo's Gambit, put that back in your hand, and I'm going to shut you down long enough for me to untap and then finish you next turn. As typically, most aggressive or even some tempo decks can end the game between turns 4 and 6. So that Bilbo's Gambit can give you just enough time to eke out that win against decks that normally would have you dead to rights by about turn 4. Next up, I want to talk about this very interesting card called The Eagles Are Coming. So this is a 2 mana white spell, instant, with kicker, costs 2 colors and 2 white to do the kicker. So you either cast it for 2 or you cast it for 6. So what it says is choose target creature you own. If this spell was kicked, instead choose any number of target creatures you own. Return each chosen creature to your hand. At the beginning of the next upkeep, create a 4/4 white bird soldier creature token with flying for each creature returned to your hand this way. So thematically, this is pretty cool because like the Eagles are coming, your guys are saved, and now you've got birds. Pretty awesome. But like the thing that I like about this card is that it's not necessarily a purely defensive spell. You can play this kind of offensively too. Because like you read it, so it says choose target creature you own. If the spell is kicked, instead choose any number of target creatures you own. Return each of those to your hand. So let's say, for example, your opponent plays a board wipe. You go, okay, that's an easy fix. So I'm going to bounce all my dudes, and then next upkeep, I'm going to create a bunch of 4/4 eagles. So now you have exactly 1 turn to deal with this threat now, as well as all the threats that just got bounced to my hand. So I hope you have more mass removal spells. But another good thing about this is there are cards like Etherize and another new card that just came in called Settle the Wreckage that gives people an instant speed way to board wipe an opponent. Now, if you're the opponent swinging in and they try to cast one of those spells on you, you can just bounce all your dudes back to your hand, and then you'll have those eagles like untapped and ready to attack. Because it says at the beginning of the next upkeep. So say they Etherize you. You use the Eagles Are Coming, bounce all your dudes. On their turn, suddenly they're faced with a bunch of eagles on the table, and then you get back to your turn and you can start swinging with those eagles. That's pretty sweet. Now, alternatively, you can play this with haste enablers, like the Glimmer from Duskborn, the red one that gives all creatures haste, and there's other ways to give all your creatures haste too. But that would be pretty sweet. If you can bounce all your dudes, make a bunch of 4/4 eagles, give them all haste, and just beat face with it, that could be pretty cool. So I like this because it's not uniquely a defensive measure. It can be played offensively if you want to. So it's a pretty sweet card, and I think I'm going to pick up a few of those myself too. And speaking of crazy instant speed board wipes, we have Settle the Wreckage. Settle the Wreckage, if you have not seen this before, this is actually a reprint. I don't remember what set it came from, because I did take a pretty sizable break between 2014 and like 2022. So Settle the Wreckage is a 2-colorless, 2-white mana instant. Reads, exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search their library for that many basic land cards, put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So this is a pretty interesting card because it works a lot the same way that Aetherize does, where it just gets rid of anything that was attacking you. So if your opponent comes at you with like 4 creatures, you say Settle the Wreckage, all those creatures are exiled, and then the opponent gets the opportunity to go and grab 4 basic lands from the deck, put it directly into play. Now, a funny thing about that, though, is in today's meta, we have a lot of like 2, 3, sometimes even 4 color decks, and that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for basic lands. So you could pretty easily basic check someone when you cast this spell. And what I mean by basic check is when someone has to go and search the library for a basic land, a la like Erode or like Destruction Field. You get rid of a thing and they go get a land from the library to replace that thing. Sometimes they're not going to find that basic land in the deck because they're not running a whole lot of them. I've seen a lot of like 3, 4 color decks that run 1, maybe 2 basic lands tops. So a card like Settle the Wreckage, I mean, you could in some cases just play that as just straight up removal with no upside, because they'll find like 1, maybe 2 lands total to put onto the table. I'm sure that's 1 and 2 lands they didn't have before, but you are also clearing the board. Well, actually, you're not even clearing the board. You're clearing the board of your opponent's attackers. You get to keep your defenders. They're still there. This spell doesn't do anything to creatures that are not attacking, just attacking creatures. It's a ridiculously strong spell, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this in Standard over the next couple of years. So definitely pick up some of these. Okay, next card I want to talk about is actually in blue, and this card is called Riddles in the Dark. It's 2 colorless and a blue for an instant, and it says, look at the top 4 cards of your library, separate them into a face-down pile and a face-up pile. An opponent chooses one of those piles. You put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So why do I like this card? It's basically a mini Fact or Fiction. Fact or Fiction was a sorcery from back in the day that would actually do that, but for 5 cards, and it would cost 4 mana to cast. You separate them into 2 piles, opponent chooses 1, you get 1, the others go into the graveyard. This, I think, is better than that card because while you don't go 5 cards deep, you go 4 cards deep. It's instant, and it costs 1 less to cast. So those are all things that are fantastic for this kind of a card. And I can definitely see some people using this as a replacement for Stock Up, because Stock Up can be a little clunky sometimes because it's a sorcery speed spell. Same mana cost, but you do get to look 5 cards deeper, and you get to choose which cards you put into your hand. That's kind of where Riddles in the Dark and Stock Up differ. So with Stock Up, you get full control over what you're getting. With Riddles in the Dark, it's kind of a gamble, but you get to separate the cards into the piles. So you get to play this little mind game with your opponent, which can be kind of fun. But I personally think that Riddles in the Dark is going to replace Stock Up for a lot of people, mostly because it's instant speed. So take a look at Riddles in the Dark, decide on that one yourself. Me personally, I'm going to pick up 4 copies of that at bare minimum. Okay, next up we are skipping black entirely and going into red. With red, we have Desolation of Smog. Smog, Smaug, however you want to pronounce it, Desolation of the Big Red Dragon. So This is a sorcery at 2 colorless and 2 red, reads Desolation of Smog deals 3 damage to each non-dragon creature, and then add 4 mana in any combination of colors, spend this mana only to cast dragon spells. This card is crazy good. It's a great like Pyroclasm style effect. It deals 3 damage to all non-dragons, which is great if you're playing into like Dragon Tribal or Dragon Typal. And then you get to use that same mana that you just spent in different colors if you need to then cast a dragon. And there's plenty of 4-cost dragons in Standard right now that you can choose from to use this mana from Desolation of Smog on. So like, I really like the fact that this is a spell that doesn't waste the mana that you're using. Because like a lot of the times when you're playing Magic, you'll find yourself in a position where, hey, I could develop board right now, or I could clear the board right now. So like I'm kind of stuck between these two decisions. What should I do? With Desolation of Smog, you don't have to choose. You can do both. And that's why I think Desolation of Smog is really, really good. And I'm going to be picking up some of these myself. And I think you should too. This is a really strong red card. Up next, we're moving into green, and we're taking a look at Radagast of Rosgabel. So this is a 2/5 Avatar Wizard for 2 colors and 2 green. And it reads, the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast and can be cast as though it had flash. So we've seen effects like this before. Like we've seen an artifact that does it. We've even seen a fairy in Foundations that does this as well. But the thing that puts this card above those is, one, it has a pretty high toughness at 5. It's like, sure, it can be removed, just like anything else, but 5 toughness does put it above certain bolts and things like that. But the really good thing about this is the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. That part, the mana discount, is really strong. You can use this as a quasi ramp spell. It's like once this is on the table and then say you untap next turn, then you can cast for whatever mana you have +2 because you're not paying that 2 extra colorless mana for the creature that you're casting. And another thing to keep in mind with this is it says the first creature spell you cast each turn. That means cast a creature on your turn, cast a creature on your opponent's turn. Each turn, mana cost is reduced, and you can still cast your creatures because they got flash. Play them at instant speed. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, I don't know what deck wants Radagast right now, but I'm thinking something in Simic. Simic sounds like a good place for Radagast to belong, but we'll find out if Radagast gets a home or not. And next we have another green spell. This is a reprint, and a really damn good reprint too. It is Wood Elves. It's just a common, so you'll probably get some of these in your pre-release packs. It's 2 colors and a green, 1/1 Elf Scout. When this creature enters, search your library for a forest card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Now what makes this card really good is it doesn't say basic forest. You can go get any forest. That means you can get a dual land that has the forest subtype on it, meaning your shock lands, meaning your surveil lands. So if you got one of those in your deck, you say, okay, I'm going to cast my Wood Elves, I'm going to go get my surveil land, pop that directly onto the table, and then surveil the top card of my library. Pretty sweet, right? It's a really fantastic card for not only thinning your deck out, but also ramping yourself up, and also potentially color fixing for you, because it can get you a dual land. So definitely get some Wood Elves. Very, very worthy card. Okay, up next we're moving into the multicolored cards with Thranduil's Company. I think this card's really cool. It's a 3/4 for 2 colorless, a green, and a blue. It's an elf soldier that reads, as long as you control another elf, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. It gains vigilance until end of turn. That's massive. So this is here, as long as you control another elf, so you just need 2 elves in play, you get to play more lands from your hand. So you play an additional land, give one of your elves +2/+2 and vigilance for the turn. Well, +2/+2 is in counters, by the way. So you get 2 +2/+2 counters, and he gains vigilance till end of turn. That's really, really strong. Like, I really think Thranduil's Company can help us build into like a kind of like landfall tempo-ish elf pile. This is kind of one that I want to try and build out because it looks like it has some legs. I just need to figure out exactly how I want to build it. Yeah, I think Thranduil's Company is going to be worth the pickup. And last on our list today is going to be Elven Passage. I mean, we do have a lot of interesting lands in this set, but far and away, Elven Passage is the clear winner for me. Elven Passage is a land that does not tap for mana, but it taps and you pay 1 life and sacrifice this land. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. If you behold an elf, you can, if you do, untap that land. So when you behold a creature, an elf in this case, you have to either represent it on the table or reveal one from your hand. That's how you behold in Magic. And when you do, you get to untap the land that you just went to go search for with Elven Passage. Now this is a very interesting fetch land because it kind of operates like Fabled Passage, because Fabled Passage will allow you the fetched land to untap if you have 4 or more lands on the table. Elven Passage is different because it allows you to do kind of the same thing, but so long as you have an elf to behold, you can have that land in or untapped before the 4th turn, which kind of makes it a little bit better in the right deck. Fabled Passage is more general use, can be used in a lot more different styles of decks, but if you are playing Elven Typal, you can use Elven Passage instead and have it be a little bit better for you. So I really think Elven Passage is going to be worth picking up at least 4 of. I definitely plan on playing some of those coming forward. There you have it. That's my picks for cards to invest in the Hobbit, at least for the standard cards. I didn't take a look at any of the commander cards because that's not really my jam. I talk about standard here on this channel. So these are the cards that I feel are pretty safe bets to continue being competitive in the new format without having to go out and buy a bunch of sealed product. Because I don't know if you've been keeping up with the news, but sealed product for Magic the Gathering, especially premium sealed product like the Hobbit, is incredibly expensive. It's like this is a gambler's market with this set. Like I'm not going to be picking up any sealed product for this set, but I will be purchasing singles. Absolutely, I will. And also, crafting on Arena is pretty cheap too. So if you got the Weld cards, these are some cards that I would definitely recommend crafting at least a few of and experimenting in your decks for the next couple months. So that being said, that is what I personally think are going to be good cards, but I want to turn the camera around right now and talk to you and let you voice your opinion. What do you think are going to be worthwhile crafts and singles pickups for standard going forward out of the Hobbit? Am I completely off base with what I'm talking about here, or do you agree with my picks? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.